Ladies and gentlemen, we have made it. Jaguars, Colts, week 1 this Sunday in Indianapolis. Let's get it. Now, this video is sponsored by BetUS. Guys, the Jaguars this game are favored by 5 points. The over-under is set at 46.5 points. At the end of the video, I'll give you guys my official score prediction. And then, as the year goes on, we'll see how either smart I am or dumb I am. But it's going to be a really, really fun segment. If you guys want to get in on some fun betting action, whether you want to throw down $5 on the game to make it a little more interesting, or whether you and your buddies want to throw down $50, $100, all that is possible over there at BetUS. Use the link down in my description box down below. It's going to 125% up your initial deposit, which means if you put down $100, you're going to see $225 show up in your account. So go do that. Shout out to BetUS for making this video possible. And with all that said, let's get on to this preview. So Jaguars versus Colts this weekend, man, I am just extremely pumped. Not only just to be able to watch my Jaguars play football, but I am just so tired of projections. And I think maybe I'm more tired of it this year just because, we have all these different people predicting us to be really good. And I even have some of my friends ask me, Calvin Ridley, do you really think he's going to be that good? And, I had to try to kind of sell to them. But I'm like, at the end of the day, just watch. That's kind of the situation like right now with the Jags is, look, we know the players, we know the offense, we know the defense, we know what we can do. Now let's go out there and see if the Jaguars can execute and play to their game plan. So with this video, I'm not going to go as into the Jaguars as much as I would a normal preview video, just because we've talked ad nauseum about the Jaguars this offseason. We know about the new additions, we know about this, and that. Now we just have to see the Jaguars play, so we really know what we look like, what the identity of the team turns out to be, what bringing on Tank Bigsby, Britton Strange, Anton Harrison will do to our offense, and really what kind of stuff Doug Peterson does differently this year versus next. So we're going to get into the Colts a little bit, man. Now the Colts and Jags were kind of different teams last year. Look, and they went kind of opposite routes. The Colts and the Titans were two teams that said, okay, either one of these two teams is going to win the AFC South. And the Colts wound up going 4-12-1, while the Jaguars were that young, exciting team, a lot of potential. The potential word that the young potential words that we've been hearing like our whole entire lives. It feels like about the Jaguars. We're supposed to maybe win like 4 to 7 games. The Jaguars actually went 9-8 and won the AFC South, so surprised a lot of people. Now, the big difference between this year's Colts team versus like the last few years is that the Colts did not go bargain bin hunting on quarterback like they had before. They were trying to find like veterans to kind of, whether it be like a Phillip Rivers on his last leg or, trying to, spark the Frank Reich, Carson Wentz thing together, or, even again going Matt Ryan, thinking Matt Ryan was going to do something with their football team. None of that worked out. So finally they said, you know what, draft number 4 overall, it's time for us to finally invest in a young quarterback. And that's what they did. And they went with Anthony Richardson, which, a lot of us know a lot about. I may not be a Florida fan, but I've watched a lot of Florida football. I have a ton of Florida Gators that, watch my channel and interact with me on Twitter, all the way to the point where I can't even talk about UCF because they're just going to talk a bunch of crap to me. So I just kind of stay away from it. But Gator fans are out there. And if this were to be a Gator fan making this video right now, they would say Anthony Richardson's trash. He's awful. Gator fans don't have the best, perspective of, Anthony Richardson. Now, Anthony Richardson projects as like a huge, like one of the biggest boomer bust kind of quarterbacks you can see out there. And really this game, I'm expecting Anthony Richardson to make some probably pretty good throws, but also make some equally like bad throws. Now, how would I play Anthony Richardson? I would play a ton of zone defense. I would, kind of keep everything in front of him. I would design a bunch of coverages to make him confused, to throw that bad interception. And look, he's a guy that wants to run. I guarantee you at this point in his career, he is not super confident in his ability to read defenses, throw downfield, do this, that, and the other. So, he's going to be a guy that if he feels a little bit of pressure, he's going to duck his head and start running, which can be very dangerous because, he is, he'll be a good runner. And look, with Richardson, he is a guy that does scare me a little bit, not necessarily on Sunday, but just career-wise, because, man, this guy has all the tools to be just an elite quarterback. I mean, it's just all about what's in here. I mean, he can make all the throws, he can run the ball, but it's all about, can he successfully read defenses in his NFL career? Can he diagnose different things going on in front of him? Does he can make all the throws, but he has to figure out, okay, do I throw this ball on the guy's back shoulder? Do I throw it while he's running in stride? When do I lob it up to a guy, or when do I throw a fastball? It's going to be a huge mental battle with Anthony Richardson. I think that he definitely could be a great quarterback, but I think he's going to struggle a lot his rookie year. But luckily, he's on the Colts right now. There's really not a lot of expectations behind the Colts this year. So it's more like, okay, go out there, develop yourself. It's really, this year is all about Anthony Richardson. They're not expecting to win. It's just said, okay, make progress, make moves. And I'm definitely happy for the Colts' sake. I mean, I don't really care personally, but for the Colts' sake, it's definitely good that they're starting Anthony Richardson week 1. Get him as many game time reps as possible. Put as much film out there, because that's going to help him, later on in his career. So, yeah, like I said, he could be great, but he could be completely awful because he just throws a bunch of picks. So that's kind of the synopsis on him. Now, I do like the wide receivers on, the Colts right now. Michael Pittman is very underrated. Alec Pierce, going into his second year, was a good guy coming out of University of Cincinnati. The running back game is pretty bad. I mean, I don't know. We all know about what's happening with Jonathan Taylor. Now, who do they trot out there, whether it be like, Deion Jackson or, Zach Moss? They've kind of got crowded backfield a little bit when it comes to, okay, who's the best out of this mid group when you look at that. Now, defensively, don't really have a lot of hope in the Colts right now. Their defensive roster is not great. They lost Stephon Gilmore, Bobby Okereke, and Yannick Ngakoue. Although they do have Shaq Leonard, who, last year, I don't think he played a lot. He was kind of hurt with different injuries. I think once he changed his name to Shaq, he got like old Shaq syndrome and just didn't really get to appear much. But he was in concussion protocol. He officially got cleared, so we're going to be able to see him, this Sunday. So, with all that said, the Jaguars are a lot better team than the Colts. I mean, but there is one thing that the Jaguars are facing right now, and it's the Jaguars have a lot of hype. And, I don't know if the team's going to know how to necessarily deal with that hype. We're not going to know until Sunday, until week 2, until week 3. So we'll see kind of how they play in that role. Last year, the Jaguars were the underdogs all season. They started off like 2-5, then they kind of came back and into the playoffs. They weren't supposed to be there, and they wound up winning. So, no longer can the Jaguars play that underdog role unless they're playing like a, Kansas City or something like that. But the Jaguars haven't won in Indianapolis since 2017. They've also lost 9 of the last 10 games. So hopefully now that the Jaguars are good, we can kind of cure that. And then this is also a division matchup where, division matchups can be really tricky. Sometimes, I mean, we saw the Jaguars in 2020. The Jaguars somehow beat the Colts, maybe because it was in Indianapolis, but the Jags went 1-15 that year. And sometimes there's just funky games, and it's also week 1. So really a lot of stuff can happen. However, when I give my predictions, I do predict that the Jaguars will win, and they will also cover the 5-point spread. Like I said, I think that the Jaguars are just a much better team. I think Anthony Richardson may have a pretty rough game, especially if the Jaguars play a defensive in a defensive way where they're forcing Anthony Richardson to throw the ball a bunch. And especially if they just put a lot of stress on him. The defense is confusing. The defense is even confusing for Jaguars rookies. I mean, Devin Lloyd was confused by his own defense last year. Imagine a rookie quarterback that's pretty raw with Anthony Richardson. So all that is something to look at. So with all that said, yeah, I picked the Jags to win and cover. Shout out to Bet US. If you guys want to go over there and, put some money on it, you guys definitely can. And yeah, one thing I do want to announce that, look, guys, Sunday live streams are back. I'll have my dad. I'll have my brother. We'll be in the room. Camera will be facing actually this way, and we're going to be watching the games together. It's going to be fun. Really, really can't wait. Sunday cannot get here soon enough, although I am excited to watch some Kansas City and Detroit Lions tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. But thank you guys for watching. Drop a like for me, please, on your way out, and go Jags.